Taoiseach, the context for this discussion is the report on the Climate Action Plan and its progress, and it's remarkable to hear that report from you that doesn't mention that the EPA have recently told us that the first two carbon budgets will not be met. Not only will they not be met, they will not be met by a significant amount. They predict 29% at best of the greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by 2030, far short of a legally binding target of 51%. And An Taoiseach called this pretty hopeful and inventive accountancy. And so I think we need to really acknowledge that there is a disconnect between the government, the measures it's willing to take, and the scale of the crisis and the scale of the failure that we are facing to cut emissions. And it's almost like a case of denial, and I think that was really shown up by the actions of your party colleagues in the EU on the question of the Biodiversity Loss Habitat Directive. So as the evidence mount, we can see that the scale of this crisis, with marine heat waves, record heat waves, temperatures broken, biodiversity loss at a massive scale, but we cannot see a business model or a determination politically from the government to deal with this, instead facilitating data corporations to build more and more through their private investments and to deny the biodiversity loss that we are facing. Taoiseach, I'd like you to address those very urgent questions.
Thanks, Ciara. I want to thank the deputies for their questions. Deputy Huron asked about progress on geothermal energy, and I'm familiar with one or two proposals in Dublin, actually in the southwest of Dublin, which have been around for a long time now, probably around 15 or 20 years, and they're very interesting and very exciting. I don't know enough about the technology to know to what extent they're viable, but the Deputy is correct in saying that we need to have a policy framework. I'm not sure what the timeline for that is at the moment, but I'll certainly check with Minister Ryan and get back to Deputy Huron as soon as I can. Just in relation to the nature law, despite the existence of habitats and birds directives for several decades, the EU, including Ireland, continues to see an alarming loss of biodiversity. And the nature law is all about arresting that and reversing it. Consideration of draft regulations is continuing at the moment. As deputies will know, there are different proposals. There's the European Commission proposal, the European Council proposal, which has just been adopted, and a draft proposal at the Parliament, which the Parliament has not yet adopted. There will be a trialogue, and I can say that I support the Council proposal, which was agreed by Minister Ryan yesterday. I believe it is realistic in terms of targets, in terms of flexibilities, in terms of compensation that will be provided to landowners, and I think it's particularly significant that the Council proposal yesterday allows for the fact that when it comes to renewable energy, that renewable energy installation, the grid, the wires, all of those things will be considered IROPI, will be considered effectively exempt from the nature law, and that totally proves that those who said that there wasn't a conflict between renewable energy and climate action and the Parliament's proposal got it wrong, whether it's MEP Wallace, Social Democrats, People for Profit or others. That provision would not be in the Council proposal adopted yesterday were there not genuine concerns about how an overly restrictive nature law could impact on climate action and renewables. And I'm glad to see that's in the Council proposal yesterday. But it now goes into trialogue, and as a government, we support what was agreed. Agreed yesterday. Sorry, on the EPA issue, the latest greenhouse gas emissions from the EPA highlight the challenge that Ireland faces in meeting its climate objectives. The EPA has projected that Ireland is on course to reduce emissions by 29% by 2030. However, if all of the unmodelled actions and as yet unallocated emission savings in the Climate Action Plan are included, then the EPA's projected emissions reduction will be 42%. While projections show that emissions are expected to decrease in almost all sectors, it is clear that Ireland has work to do to meet our challenges and legally binding emissions targets. Change is now underway across our economy and society to realign ourselves to a low-carbon future. Reducing emissions is now at the heart of our policies and sectors. It's essential that we quickly translate our high-level goals and plans to meaningful actions on the ground. We need to fully implement the actions of the Climate Action Plan of 2023 and strengthen additional measures needed to reach our targets. And I can confirm to the deputies that, of course, we intend to meet our 51% reduction target by 2023. And rather than treating industry as enemies, we're engaging with industry. And it's very interesting to meet firms like Diageo, for example, in the brewing sector, like Lilly in the pharma sector, and seeing how ambitious and how feasible their plans to meet net zero are, because they know it's in their economic interest to do so.